My child, stop for just 2 minutes because what I am about to place in your hands cannot be delayed. Do not move past this moment as if it were ordinary, because it is not ordinary, and it is not small. What is happening right now has already been marked in heaven before you even arrived here. I know how many things are trying to pull your eyes away, how many thoughts are asking you to return later, how many distractions are pressing against your attention at this exact second, but I tell you with tenderness and urgency, do not skip this moment, because heaven arranged this exact second for you. You may think you found these words by habit, by chance, by routine, by another ordinary pause in your day, but this is not random. This is not another passing sound in your life. I am speaking because the hour around you is carrying more weight than you understand, and I will not allow you to pass through this moment without hearing what your spirit has been crying for in silence. I have held this word until now because your spirit was finally ready to carry it. There were days before today when you wanted answers, and I heard you. There were nights when you asked me why I remained quiet, and I heard that too. There were moments when you believed I had delayed too long, when you wondered if perhaps I had spoken to everyone except you, when you watched other people move forward while your own heart remained waiting, and even then I did not turn away from you. I waited because I know the exact weight every word carries when it enters a tired heart. I know the difference between hearing and receiving. I know the difference between words touching your ears and truth reaching the deepest part of you. That is why I held this until now, because now your spirit is listening differently. And now your soul is standing at a place where what I say can finally settle where it must remain. If you leave before hearing this, you may walk away from the answer you begged me for when nobody else saw you asking. You have spoken prayers you never said aloud. You have carried questions so deep that even when you tried to explain them, words failed you. You have looked calm while carrying storms inside your chest. You have smiled while wondering if your strength would last another day. But I saw every hidden conversation in your heart. I saw every quiet plea. I saw every time you looked upward and said nothing because even silence felt heavy. And because I saw it, I chose this moment carefully. Not yesterday, not last week, not after another season passes. Now, out of many voices, I chose this one to reach you today. There are many sounds around you, many opinions, many words, many directions calling for your attention. Yet I chose this moment to interrupt all of them because some words must arrive with precision. Some words cannot wait until your schedule clears. Some words cannot stand behind your distractions and politely ask for room. Some words must stop you where you are because they carry the kind of light that enters only when everything else pauses. This is why I am speaking now. This is why your attention is being pulled inward even while your mind tries to wander elsewhere. This is not random scrolling. This is my hand stopping you. Before you pressed play, before you arrived here, before these words reached your eyes, something changed around you that you have not fully understood yet. Something shifted quietly. Something invisible moved before your thoughts recognized it. There is a reason your heart became restless today. There is a reason ordinary things suddenly felt heavier. There is a reason you sensed something unusual in the atmosphere even if you could not explain it. Your spirit noticed what your mind has not yet named. What you have been waiting to see has already started moving, even if your eyes cannot recognize it yet. Your breakthrough is not approaching anymore, it has already entered your atmosphere. Listen carefully, because I need you to hear this without the old fear that has taught you to expect disappointment. What you prayed for is no longer standing far away. What you cried over is no longer delayed in the way you think. The movement has already begun, even where your natural sight still sees silence. There are answers already crossing spaces you cannot measure. There are decisions already changing that you have not yet heard about. There are doors already softening where you thought everything remained closed. The reason your spirit has been unsettled is because heaven began moving before your circumstances informed you. Right, thank you, God, for saving me if He's rescued you time and time again. Do not dismiss what you are feeling today as random emotion. Do not call it mood. Do not call it tiredness alone. There are moments when your spirit reacts before your understanding catches up, and this is one of those moments. Something changed around you before you even pressed play. The weight began shifting. The pressure began lifting in ways too quiet for ordinary language. You thought perhaps nothing had changed because visible evidence is not yet spoken, but much of what I do begins hidden. Roots always begin hidden. Dawn always begins while darkness still thinks it remains in control. Do not treat this like another message, because this word carries timing. Timing is why I interrupted you now. Timing is why your attention keeps returning even if you tried to move away. Timing is why this feels heavier than ordinary words. There are moments when delay creates loss, not because I have stopped working, but because some words are attached to moments that must be received when they arrive. The enemy wanted your attention somewhere else right now for a reason. The enemy understands the danger of you hearing clearly when heaven decides to speak directly. That is why distraction often rises strongest just before clarity enters. That is why weariness often feels loudest before revelation becomes visible. That is why confusion sometimes grows right before peace reaches you. You wondered why today felt strange. You wondered why your heart kept circling thoughts you could not settle. You wondered why memories returned unexpectedly. You wondered why your spirit felt both tired and alert at the same time. I tell you now, what you sensed was not emptiness. It was preparation. I was already drawing your attention inward before these words reached you because what I am about to reveal explains everything you thought I ignored. Before these minutes end, I will show you why your delay was never rejection. There were doors that closed because danger stood behind them even when they looked beautiful from the front. There were people removed because they could not remain where I am taking you. There were answers delayed because your heart needed strength before carrying what you asked to receive. There were seasons when silence protected more than immediate explanation could have done. I know how often you mistook delay for distance. I know how often you measured my love by visible movement. But much of my deepest work happens where your eyes cannot judge it correctly. What I am about to reveal explains why some nights felt endless, why some mornings felt heavy, why some prayers seemed unanswered while I was already building what you could not yet see. You thought nothing moved because the surface looked unchanged, but beneath what you called stillness, I was arranging what your future requires. I was removing hidden resistance. I was preserving what your own strength could not protect. I was teaching your spirit how to remain standing when visible support disappeared. Please support our channel. Our work is to bring happiness in your life and devotion to God. And if you want, you can donate to us via given link in description to show your support. There is also something I need you to hear clearly. You are not here because your timing was perfect. You are here because my mercy reached for you again. Even after doubt, even after exhaustion, even after moments when your faith became quiet, even after times you stopped expecting surprise. I still chose this moment because I know what is nearest to you now. The answer you thought belonged only to later has already begun crossing toward you. The peace you believed would come after everything changed is beginning before visible proof arrives. The reason you feel tension and hope together is because your spirit is standing where transition begins before evidence fully speaks. This is why your heart cannot fully settle into old fear anymore. Something inside you already knows the season is changing. Stay with me here. Do not hurry past this. Do not allow old thoughts to say this is just another voice. I know how often disappointment taught you caution. I know how often waiting taught you to protect yourself from hope. But I did not bring you here for empty comfort. I brought you here because what has already begun around you needs your spirit awake enough to recognize it. The last few days have not been ordinary. The heaviness, the sudden thoughts, the strange pull inward, the memories returning, the moments of unexplained silence, all of it has been part of a deeper movement than you understood. I was already preparing your attention before this word arrived. Now listen closely. What you have begged me for is not being forgotten. What you carried secretly has not been dismissed. What you thought I overlooked has remained before me every moment. Even when nothing in your visible life confirmed it, heaven never misplaced your cry. Stay until the final word, because the last part carries what your soul hath been asking me in silence. My child, the reason you are here at this exact second is not because your hands moved at random, not because your eyes happened to stop here, and not because time simply pushed you into another ordinary moment. I need you to understand this before anything else enters your heart. This exact moment has been arranged with intention far beyond what you can currently see. Long before you arrived here, long before this day began, long before your thoughts became heavy and your spirit started searching for something it could not explain, I already knew I would meet you here. I knew the hour. I knew the moment your attention would pause. I knew the condition of your heart when these words would finally reach you. Nothing about this is accidental. Nothing about this was left to chance. Even what looked ordinary around you was quietly being directed so that you would not miss this appointment. I do not interrupt without purpose, and I do not call your attention without reason. If I have stopped you now, it is because something deeper than your routine is unfolding, and I refuse to let you pass through this hour without hearing what heaven has carried for you. You may think your day simply unfolded this way because of habit, because of a small decision, because of a random pause between other responsibilities. But there are unseen movements you did not notice before you arrived here. There were things adjusted before your mind even understood it. Conversations shifted. Delays happened. Certain distractions failed to hold you. Even moments that seemed unimportant were quietly serving something greater. I guided you more than you realize. There are times when I move gently, so gently that you call it coincidence because you do not yet see my hand. But my hand has been present through every detail that brought you here. I know exactly what was trying to claim your attention today. I know what almost occupied your thoughts completely. I know the heaviness that followed you through the earlier hours. Yet still, here you are, because what I wanted to place before you was stronger than what tried to keep you elsewhere. This is not coincidence. Let that truth settle deeply inside you now. You are not hearing these words because the day happened to turn in this direction. You are here because I chose to speak now. Out of countless moments in your life, this one carries a weight that you cannot yet fully measure. The world may teach you to call everything chance, but I tell you there are moments heaven marks long before they arrive. There are seconds filled with purpose even when they appear ordinary from the outside. This is one of them. The reason your spirit feels something unusual even while your mind tries to remain ordinary is because your soul recognizes what your thoughts have not yet fully accepted. I am speaking into a moment I have already prepared. Before you reached this word, many unseen things happened that you could not observe. What you call an ordinary day has already touched places beyond your natural sight. There were things held back from you that would have overwhelmed you too early. There were answers not yet released because your heart needed strength first. There were burdens you carried that shaped your listening until now. Heaven delayed this word because timing matters more than you understand. I do not release everything the moment it is requested, because I know when truth will enter deeply enough to remain. There were earlier moments when these same words would have touched your ears but not yet reached the deeper place they were meant to heal. But now your spirit is standing in a different place than before. Now your heart is tired enough to listen honestly. And now your soul is open where once it guarded itself too tightly. Now the silence around you has prepared space for what must be planted. I have seen what nobody else fully saw. I saw the private tears you wiped away quickly because you did not want anyone to ask questions you could not answer. I saw the moments when you stared quietly, not because you had no thoughts, but because too many thoughts were moving at once and you no longer knew which one to face first. I saw your silent confusion when you tried to understand why certain things kept delaying, why certain doors stayed closed, why some people walked away without explanation, why strength became harder to gather even for simple days. I saw your exhaustion, not only the tiredness of your body, but the deeper weariness that comes when the soul has carried uncertainty for too long. I saw the nights when your body rested but your mind did not. I saw the mornings when you rose because you had to, not because your heart felt ready. There were prayers you never completed because emotion interrupted them. There were words you wanted to speak to me but left unfinished because disappointment sat too close to your chest. There were times you wondered if silence meant distance. There were moments you questioned whether I still intended to answer what you had asked with tears long ago. But I was never absent from those moments. Even where you thought only silence remained, I was watching carefully, measuring the exact time when your heart would be ready for this interruption. Heaven delayed this word until now because there are seasons when preparation must happen before revelation arrives. If I had spoken earlier, you might have heard comfort but misdirection. If I had spoken sooner, you might have welcomed relief but not understood why the delay existed. But now the season around you has changed quietly. Even if visible proof has not yet announced it, your inner life has crossed into a different place. You have endured things that reshaped how you listen. You have survived disappointments that taught your spirit what shallow comfort can never teach. You have walked through enough silence to recognize the difference when my voice reaches you again. This is why now is the appointed time. Not because everything around you has become perfect. Not because every answer has already appeared. Not because all struggle has ended. It is the appointed time because the place inside you that once resisted deeper truth has softened through everything you endured. There are moments when pain prepares hearing more than ease ever could. There are moments when tears open chambers in the heart that ordinary days never reach. This moment arrives because what you have lived through has prepared a deeper place inside you for what I am saying now. I need you to understand how personal this is. I did not release this word into emptiness hoping it might find whoever needed it. I knew exactly who would be listening when these words arrived. I knew your present questions. I knew your hidden fatigue. I knew the exact kind of ache sitting quietly beneath your ordinary actions today. You were guided here intentionally because I wanted your heart to hear something before the next days unfold around you. There are moments ahead where this word must remain inside you, and that is why it arrives now instead of later. You may still wonder why today feels different, why this interruption feels heavier than other moments, why your attention keeps returning even if your thoughts try to wander. It is because your spirit recognizes being addressed personally. When heaven speaks into an appointed moment, something inside you knows it before your reasoning catches up. That is why you feel both stillness and movement inside at once. That is why you cannot dismiss this entirely as ordinary language. Comment, "Thank you, Lord, for your endless love," if His presence comforts you deeply. I stopped you today because I would not allow you to continue carrying certain assumptions into the next part of your journey. You have believed some delays meant rejection. You have feared some silence meant distance. You have interpreted some losses as proof that nothing was moving. But before those thoughts settle any deeper, I interrupt you here because what is true is greater than what exhaustion hath been whispering. There are unseen answers already closer than you think. There are movements already taking place that your eyes have not yet reported. There are things shifting quietly beyond the edges of what you can currently measure. But before visible change arrives, your heart needed this reminder. You are not forgotten, you are not overlooked, and you were not left to wander through this season unnoticed. The reason this interruption feels so direct is because it is direct. I am not speaking generally now. I am speaking into your present hour, your current burden, your private thoughts, your hidden tiredness. That is why this moment feels precise. That is why these words seem to arrive where ordinary encouragement could never reach. You are meant to feel personally chosen because you are personally seen. Even your arrival here happened under my attention. Even the smallest details that led you into this exact pause were not empty movements. I was present through all of it. I guided more than you noticed. I protected more than you understood. I prevented more than you realized. And now I speak because this exact moment carries purpose that reaches further than today alone. So remain here and receive this fully. You were guided intentionally. Your tears were seen completely. Your exhaustion was never hidden, and this hour was marked long before you arrived. This is not coincidence. This is the moment I chose to stop you because your heart must hear clearly that heaven has not lost sight of you, not even once. My child, one of the deepest burdens you have carried in your heart has been the question you rarely said aloud in full. Why did it feel as though I was silent when you were calling for me with everything you had left? There were moments when your prayers were not casual words. They were born from nights when your chest felt heavy, from mornings when you rose already tired, from seasons when you had no strength left for polished language and could only offer me broken sentences, unfinished thoughts, and tears that spoke where words failed. You asked sincerely. You waited honestly. You hoped repeatedly. Yet because the answer did not arrive in the form you expected, your heart slowly began to wonder whether silence had replaced response. I need you to hear me clearly now. What you called silence was never emptiness, and what looked like delay was never absence. I was present in every moment you thought had no answer, even when my work was too hidden for your eyes to recognize. When prayers feel unanswered, it is often because you are measuring response only by visible movement, only by immediate outcomes, only by whether the door opened exactly where you were looking. But my work often begins where your sight cannot yet enter. Many times you stood before me asking for relief while I was already protecting you from what your own prayer did not yet fully understand. There were requests you made from sincere pain, but hidden inside those requests were paths that would have placed you inside burdens you were not prepared to carry. You saw only the need before you. I saw the full road ahead. You saw the door and asked why it remained shut. I saw what stood behind that door long after your present desire would have passed. So while you thought nothing moved, I was already answering in ways deeper than immediate permission. Delay was protection, not distance. Let that truth settle where disappointment has tried to build its home inside you. I was not absent while you waited. I was guarding what you could not yet see. There are seasons when I must delay visible answers because the answer itself, if released too early, would become another source of pain. You asked for things with honest faith, but faith does not always know the hidden consequences behind immediate fulfillment. That is why my love sometimes says wait when your heart begs for now. My delay was not punishment. It was tenderness acting in wisdom. I would rather let you wrestle with temporary confusion than hand you something that later becomes sorrow you were never meant to carry. Behind closed doors, unseen spiritual rearrangements were taking place long before you realized anything had shifted. While you thought the room remained still, movements were already unfolding beyond your awareness. There were conversations happening in places you could not enter. There were decisions softening before they became visible. There were protections placed over you that prevented certain names, certain places, certain outcomes from attaching themselves to your future. Not every battle in your life was meant to become visible to you. Some things I handled quietly because your peace mattered more than your awareness of every danger avoided. Many times you interpreted stillness as inactivity because heaven often works without noise. Yet some of my greatest rearrangements happen where no sound announces them. I was moving things that had become tangled long before you knew they existed. I was untangling influences that would have delayed you longer if left untouched. I was redirecting paths that looked harmless but carried weight your spirit would later struggle under. Even what looked like nothing happening often held deep work beneath the surface. Those closed doors that wounded you were often rescue in disguise. I know how painful it felt to stand before something you believed would finally open, only to watch it remain shut no matter how sincerely you asked, prepared, or waited. I know how many times you questioned yourself afterward, wondering whether you lacked worth, whether you had failed, whether your effort had been overlooked. But many closed doors were not rejection of you. They were rescue from futures that did not carry peace. Some doors were closed because what looked promising from where you stood held hidden burdens you would only have recognized too late. Some doors were closed because people inside those places would have drained what I was still trying to strengthen in you. Some doors remained shut because the timing of your heart and the weight of what stood behind that opening were not yet aligned. You mourned certain opportunities because they looked like answers. Yet had they opened, they would have demanded pieces of you that I had not asked you to surrender. Some places you longed to enter would have rewarded you publicly while quietly exhausting you privately. Some outcomes you called ideal would have slowly taught your soul to survive in dryness instead of teaching you how to live where peace remains. So I closed what you called opportunity because I could already see what the future of that path required. Some relationships also had to collapse, even though your heart tried desperately to preserve them. I know how difficult this part has been for you because love always hopes longer than logic. You stayed in conversations after your spirit already felt tired. You tried to understand people who had already begun withdrawing in ways they could not explain honestly. You held patience where your own heart was quietly hurting because you believed endurance alone could save what had already begun to weaken. But some relationships were not collapsing because you failed. Some were collapsing because they had already reached the limit of what they could carry into the next season of your life. Not everyone assigned to a chapter is meant for the next one. Some people were real for a time, yet temporary in assignment. Some people could walk beside you while your life held one kind of need, but they could not remain where your spirit is now being led. Some relationships ended not because they held no value, but because their season had completed what it was meant to teach. Others had to collapse because staying would have required you to keep shrinking in ways I no longer allow. There were relationships where you kept asking why honesty felt absent, why effort became one-sided, why closeness slowly turned heavy instead of safe. The answer is that not every bond can survive when truth begins growing stronger inside you. Some people were comfortable with a version of you that carried more silence, more self-denial, more willingness to bend. But when your spirit began changing, even quietly, what once held together began revealing cracks already there. What broke was painful, but what broke also prevented deeper injury later. I know you still revisit some names and wonder whether things could have been saved if you had said more, done more, waited longer, explained yourself differently. But not everything broken was yours to repair. Some endings happened because keeping them alive would have cost you the very peace I am restoring now. And some plans failed because the version of your future they represented no longer matched what I know is necessary for you. You planned sincerely. You imagined carefully. You hoped deeply. There were timelines you built in your heart, believing certain things would unfold by certain seasons. When they did not, disappointment felt personal because you attached meaning to the plan itself. Yet not every failed plan was failure. Some were mercy arriving disguised as interruption. There were paths you prepared for that would have consumed years while giving very little back to your soul. There were plans that looked stable but carried hidden emptiness. There were outcomes that would have confirmed your effort but delayed your deeper becoming. That is why some things failed despite how much you prepared. It was not because your prayer lacked sincerity. It was because your future required something stronger than what your current understanding could design. Even now, some pain remains because your heart still remembers how much you wanted certain things to work. I do not ask you to pretend that loss did not hurt. I know exactly where each disappointment touched you. I know which memories still returned quietly. I know which moments still carry questions when I become still. But I want you to begin seeing old pain through a clearer light. Much of what wounded you also preserved you. The unanswered prayer protected what you could not yet guard. The closed door rescued what you could not yet foresee. The broken relationship removed what could not travel further. The failed plan cleared room for what had not yet arrived. That is why I say again, the hidden delay was never silence. It was care moving invisibly while you stood inside uncertainty. It was my hand choosing long-term peace over immediate relief. It was wisdom refusing to confuse love with instant permission. And now, because you have walked through enough to hear this differently, I want old pain to lose its false meaning. You were never abandoned in those waiting seasons. You were being protected inside them. Even where you thought nothing answered, heaven was already arranging what your present eyes could not yet understand. My child, there is a reason this word did not reach you in the earlier days when you first cried for clarity, and there is a reason I am speaking it now with a depth that feels heavier than many words you have heard before. I have been holding this word for you, not because I wished to keep comfort from you, not because I did not hear the urgency in your prayers, and not because I failed to notice how often you asked me for one clear answer that would steady your heart. I held it because heaven does not release certain words according to human impatience. Heaven releases according to readiness, according to what your spirit can carry without breaking under what the truth will awaken inside you. There are words that sound beautiful when heard too early, yet become fully alive only when the soul has passed through enough fire to understand what they truly mean. What I am saying now belongs to a season your heart has finally entered, because before now you would have heard the sentence but missed the weight of its purpose. You often believed that if I had spoken sooner, your pain would have become lighter, your waiting easier, your nights less heavy. But there are truths that cannot enter deeply into a heart that has not yet been softened by endurance. Earlier, you were asking for relief while still standing in places where your spirit had not yet learned how to receive deeper instruction. You wanted answers while still carrying expectations that would have turned my word into something smaller than what it was meant to become. If I had released this word earlier, you might have held on to only the comfort of it while missing the transformation hidden inside it. You might have treated it as immediate rescue when in truth it was meant to become inner foundation. And foundation must arrive when the ground has been prepared enough to receive weight. That is why I waited. Not because I forgot, but because I know the timing of heaven better than you know the urgency of your own longing. Heaven does not delay because heaven is distant. Heaven delays because timing protects what is sacred. Every word released from me carries assignment, and not every season can carry every assignment. There are seasons for simple comfort, seasons for hidden silence, seasons for correction, and seasons for revelation that arrives only after enough has changed inside you. What I speak now belongs to a time when your spirit has crossed through places that earlier versions of you could not yet understand. You have noticed how differently your heart listens now compared to before, even if you have not fully named it. There are things that once would have satisfied you quickly, but no longer do. There are answers that once would have seemed enough, but now feel shallow unless they touch something deeper. That change did not happen suddenly. It happened quietly through everything you survived. It happened through long waiting, through disappointment, through unanswered moments, through carrying questions longer than you wanted, through learning how to stand when visible reassurance failed to appear. What you call suffering often became preparation in ways you did not notice while you were living through it. Spiritual maturity rarely announces itself while it is being formed. It often grows in hidden places where you think nothing meaningful is happening. It grows while you endure what you did not choose. It grows while you continue waking up despite heaviness. It grows while you keep speaking to me even when your own emotions do not cooperate. It grows while your plans collapse and yet your spirit still searches for my presence instead of closing completely. Many times you believed pain was only pain because you could not yet see what it was building. But suffering often teaches what ease never reaches. Earlier release would have been too early because earlier you still expected certain things to remain untouched that now you know cannot remain as they were. Earlier you still believed some answers would come without requiring inner change. Earlier you still hoped for restoration while imagining everything inside you could remain comfortable. But now you know that when I answer deeply, I do not simply place new things into old spaces unchanged. I reshape what receives them. And reshaping takes time, and much of that time felt like loss because transformation often removes what cannot travel further. Say the Lord is my safe place if you found refuge under His wings. And share this video.